Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intentional Productivity Tips. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I thank you for being here with us today. I thank you for spending this time together, and I am so excited because we are going to talk about something that is become more and more popular over the last 10 or 15 years, if you want to be honest about it. Today, we are going to talk about your side hustle. Today's productivity tip is your side hustle mastering your time. For all of us who have been working a side hustle, the numbers of people that are doing that is growing every day. And so we want to talk a little bit about mastering your time. Again, I am Megan. I'm your favorite strategic productivity partner, which you know what that means. Each week, we are here to talk about productivity tips, productivity suggestions, habits, mindsets, and give you resources and tools so that you can hopefully improve your relationship with your productivity to the positive. You are watching me on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel, where please like, subscribe, and even be notified when a new episode drops, which happens to be every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific. So I am so glad today, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about something that is very exciting and very important. And when we're talking about today's productivity tip, which is mastering your side hustle time, I want to talk about this, and I want you to think about this from the perspective of this. Now, some of you may not have a side hustle right now, and you might think this doesn't pertain to me. That's okay. Some of you might not have a side hustle right now, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about it someday, so maybe this will give me some ideas. I hope so. And some of you may have a side hustle right now, and this might give you some suggestions and some guidance and some ideas on how to take control of your time. And for that, I hope so. So today we are going to talk about mastering your side hustle time. One thing I want you to be aware of is the goal of this presentation is so that you can have tips and techniques and think about it. I want you to be strategic. Strategic productivity partner, it's coming out today. But I really want you to be strategic with how you think of your time with your side hustle. So the three things we are going to talk about today. First, we are going to talk about setting your expectations up for success. We are going to talk about identifying your side hustle actions and categorizing and tracking your actions. I will not be dancing today, but it does sound like I should either be singing or dancing when talking about side hustle. You're welcome. I won't be doing that. But we do want to think about a little bit about the dance of life and the side hustle. So let's be realistic when we're talking about people working a side hustle. The honest fact is you have a day job. Maybe not literally during the day. We work all different times and efforts and energies these days, but I think you know what I mean. When you have a side hustle, that means that's your secondary job. You have another job, right? So you have a day job and then you're blending your side hustle into the rest of your life. Oh, isn't that fun and easy? Not necessarily. So today we want to get strategic, We want to get strategic. We want to talk about creating a clear path for your side hustle that helps you focus your time and energy, turning every moment into meaningful progress. We want to align your side hustle with purpose. Why? Again, you have a day job. The fact of the matter is, when you have a side hustle, it impacts every element of your life. It impacts relationships. It impacts families. It impacts availability. It impacts what your mind's going on. It impacts everything. And it's above and beyond, again, one other full-time or one other job that you've got. So we want to think about the fact that it's going to be, honestly, there's going to be days when it's hard. There's going to be days when you're going to want to give up. There's going to be days when you're going to say, is this worth it? And the answer is yes, that's going to happen. So the reality is, if we're honest, we know those thoughts are going to come up in our mind. We can't change the thought. We can change our response to it. So that's why we want to have clearly identified our purpose. Because if we know why we're actually spending this extra effort, energy into this other element in our life, right? We're creating something new on this side. We're working on something. It's a side hustle. It's a second job. It's a new job. It's a new company, whatever that side hustle may be. We want to realize that that's extra. So when it's hard and on those times, we want to have a clear reason. We want to know our priority. We want to know what those expectations are. We want to know why we're doing it. Why are we spending this time, effort, and energy here? So let's talk a little bit about setting your side hustle purpose. 3 things. So this is not an activity where I'm going to give you 1 minute to write it down. Go. Not at all. The purpose of this isn't to rush it. The purpose of this is for me to say, think about setting your side hustle purpose and expectations, right? So you want to identify when you're thinking about it, what service or product do you provide? What is it that you're doing? Is it a service? Is it a consumable? Is it a product? Are you baking on the side? What is it that you're doing? Are you a productivity partner on the side? That's how I started. I started this as a side hustle. Are you selling? Are you financial planning? What is it that you're doing, right? You want to be very clear about what it is that you're doing. Then you want to identify when setting your purpose, who is it that you help? Identify your target audience. Identify whose life is going to be impacted for the better by what you're doing. Identify who you're offering the solution for. Because it's important to remember that as well. Because again, there's going to be days when you're tired. And when you can remember, you know what, but by me doing this, in my case, I'm going to help people get things done easier, right? As a productivity partner. If we break it down, that's what my side hustle was. I was finding out that I could have a career helping people break down their jobs and do their actions, complete their actions easier, right? As I talk about productivity systems, habits, mindset, automations, that was me, right? So what we want you to do when it's your side hustle is identify for you, who is it that you help? What service do you help them with? And then why is it important to you? Reflect on your personal motivation. Are you in financial planning because it's important for not just you and your family to have stability, but somebody else? I had a client recently who was working on insurance, and she was starting to sell a new line of insurance. So she was starting to do it on her own. And so as I was helping her, she was like, I want people to have stability that I didn't have in my life or that my family didn't have, right? You want to begin the why. If it's coaching, whatever you're doing, you want to set your side hustle purpose. You want to begin to have that clear. I'm not saying how you need to create this. You need to personalize it and create this for you. But again, you need to be able to, in your mind, in your arsenal, even write it down. You need to be able to say, this is my purpose and why I'm doing it. This is why it's worth those hours. This is why it's worth the late nights. This is why it's worth missing dinner with my friends. This is why I'm doing it. I have a clearly defined side hustle purpose. Once we identify our purpose, we'll be able to start to think about setting clear actions and priorities, right? One of the biggest challenges with having a side hustle and a job or whatever the situation is that it can seem insurmountable. It can seem large. When I've talked to clients who are working on multiple businesses at the same time, the thing that I hear from them most is it just seems so big. And that reminds me of when I was working at a college in Montecito, California, where we were going through a big data project. We were changing the entire information system for the college, and we would be stressed out. And the vice president of finance would walk through, because we shared an office space, and he would just say, Megan, how do you eat an elephant? And I would be like, "Ugh," and he would say, "You eat an elephant one bite at a time." And then he'd say, "I bet this feels like an elephant. So how do you finish this? One step at a time." And so, how do you eat an elephant is something that always resonates in my mind and something that I remember, but it also applies here because, again, we want to be realistic and honest. Creating a side hustle is a big thing to do. It can be. It can seem that way. So, how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And how do we realistically do that here? By setting clear actions, priorities, and tracking systems for our side hustle. It gives us direction. It helps prioritize your time and energy, and it ensures you stay on track. With a clear plan, you can easily identify how to spend your available time and avoid wasting energy on indecision. So what we're going to move our focus to now is, now that we've identified our why and our purpose, how do we realistically spend our time? How do we identify what we're going to do, how much time we're going to do, and what we're going to do in that time? So we want to talk a little bit about identifying our actions. So here is a 2-step process that I recommend to be able to identify what our actions are. Now, one thing I'm going to go back and remind you of, this is where we want to personalize. So I'm giving you the ideas. The first step is to identify all of the actions. This is where you want to be granular. Every action that you can think of that you need to complete for your side hustle, you want to download on a document. As you can see here, I've downloaded actions that side hustlers need to complete to create their, to get everything done here on a spreadsheet. You could do it in a note, you could do wherever, but it's important to clearly identify what are all of the actions you need to complete, and you want to be granular here. So once you identify the actions, what we're on our path to do now is we're on our path to identify how do we spend our precious time that we have to focus on our side hustle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to identify, what do we want to do when we have time to work on our side hustle? So the first thing we want to do is we want to capture our actions. So we've just created, what are all of the actions that we're going to want to create and all the actions we need to complete as part of our side hustle. The next thing we want to do is, when you're planning your time, when you're planning your focus, when you're planning your effort with a side hustle, it is important. This is what I've found. It is important when you're planning to not think at the granular level. It's important when you're planning a side hustle. It's important when you're planning a second or multiple jobs or projects, that when you're actually planning your time, effort, and energy, that you're thinking a little bit more strategically than the granular. What I always suggest is, after you've identified all your actions, is that you start to group and categorize them together. Because you want to start thinking again strategically. Again, you want to take control and you want to be able to prioritize and say, how can I spend my time and get the most effective use out of it, right? When we think about our side hustles, again, we don't want to necessarily think granularly when we're doing the work, because we want to be able to think strategically at the big picture, right? Because this isn't the only thing we're focusing on. We want to protect our mind and our energy. So I always say, identify your side hustle key category areas, right? These are your key focus category areas. For example, existing clients, new clients, mentoring or team development, content development, marketing and social media, networking, right? Admin tasks, business tasks. All of these are the categories of your tasks. How did we get to these categories? We went back to our actions. We went and we listed our granularly actions, and then we organized them together into categories. Because now that we know our categories that are connected with our actions, we can start to plan again strategically. Remember, our time with a side hustle is limited, so we need to be focused, and we need our organization to be on our A game. One way we can do that is by personalizing our tracking system. When you think of tracking systems, there's so many options: spreadsheets, Asana, Trello boards. There are options. There's even Kanban boards. So one of the things I'm sharing with you here, again, because I'm telling you personalizing is important, this is an outline in a format that I use for some of my projects, and I used as I was expanding Strategic Productivity Partner. So remember, one of the things that we've done is we know the actions we need to complete, and we've got categories that we're going to be working in. When we're working in these categories, what we're able to then do is think a little bit more strategically. So for example, on my Kanban board here, you'll notice that I have columns for each of my categories. So I have existing clients, new clients, mentoring clients. I have course development, content development, networking, and admin, right? So those are right now, those are the main categories that I'm identifying the tasks that I have to work in. Once I have my categories, I personally, and remember, extra Megan here, I know it, but I also found if I take a little bit more time and organize my categories, it helps me know what I can pick up and move forward. And that's what we want to do. So you'll notice that within my categories, for example, with existing clients, I have it broken into now, next, and after. As you know, I like to break my tasks and prioritize. What do I need to do now? What do I need to do next? What do I need to do after? And that way I'm able to pick them up. Right? Because when we have clearly identified categories, we have deadlines, and we also have the tasks kind of prioritized, when we have time to work, it makes it easier for us to pick up, doesn't it? When we have when we know I have a work block right now, if we've developed and set up a system that works for us, again, this is a system that works for me. I want you to personalize yours so it's just as cool for you. And so it's just as useful and helpful, right? So what we identify is when we have time to work, one of the other things that I also do is I tag my tasks with time. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, or more. Because what I also then am able to do is be able to say, okay, how long are my tasks going to take? And I'm able to identify how much time I have of any given, if it's a priority, if things are due today, if I have a time block. Again, by dividing by time, I'm able to identify again. I'm not planning 5 hours if I only have 2 hours to work, because we don't know we know that's not going to work, right? So it's also important now that we know our purpose. We have our actions and we have our categories prioritized. So we know in our side hustle, when I'm going to sit down and work, we know how to begin to identify what we're going to do with that block of time. Let's look at the best way to move forward with that, right? So let's look at creating your task time action plan. And so this is your side hustle time planner. So it's got 3 questions for you to ask. The first question you need to identify is, what is my total time available today? So for example, I have, what is my total time available today? How much time do I have that I'm going to be on calls or meetings today? And then how much actual task time do I have, right? So we want to identify those 3 things. How much task time, how much total task time do I have? How much calls and meetings do I have? How much actual productivity focused task time do I have? So for example, it could look like this. If I've identified I have 4 hours available, I have 1 hour of task time, or I have 1 hour of meetings or calls, that leaves 3 hours for me to do tasks. Woohoo, right? What an exciting thing if I have 3 hours that I am able to work on my side hustle tasks. So what we want to do then, after we identify the number of hours, is we want to again start to think of, how do we break that 3 hours down so that it makes sense for us? Again, this is a process that we want to go through. I'm going to show you 2 different options. One using my now, next, after formula, and then we're going to look at categories. So for example, now that I've got my 3 hours, I know I've got 3 hours of task time. What I want to do is I want to look at my prioritized board. For example, I want to come over here and I would say, okay, of my boards, what are the tasks that I am going to complete? Well, you'll happen to notice right here, I have 3 hours of tasks and I've actually broken the tasks down. So what we want to do is, after we identify our task time, we want to plan that task time. We want to look at what we have to complete and the actual time with it. That's how we can use the now, next, after approach. Another method that we can use is, again, we have 3 hours of task time. If we're used to thinking in categories and we're used to saying, okay, today in my 3 hours, I need to follow, I have active task clients I need to work with, I need to work with prospective clients, and I need to do some admin tasks. So then we're able to say, okay, these are the things I'm going to work in, and we can come back and we can add the granular with how much task time we have. It really is a Rubik's Cube, right? When we are, today's day and age, putting our lives together is like a puzzle. And so it is specifically a puzzle when we're looking at a side hustle, because again, it's a side hustle, which means we had a complete other part of that job, day, experience, whatever we're working on. Our goal with a side hustle is to make it as easy as possible for you, so that when you've got that 3 hours, you get to work on your side hustle. You don't have to think, oh, what do I need to do? What am I supposed to do, right? Intentional hustle creates success. So success in your side hustle doesn't happen by accident. It's built with intention. By being clear about your purpose, prioritizing your efforts, and planning your time, you're not just working hard, you're working smart for the life that you truly want. There's a reason you've got a side hustle. There's a reason you're working multiple jobs. So you want to remember your purpose and you want to be strategic with your time so that you can enjoy it. Because again, what you're working on is truly amazing, and it is you and who you are. So we want to make that happen, and we want the systems, habits, processes, and mindset to support that. So that is why today we have talked about mastering your side hustle time. As every week, my goal is that you take at least one thing that you're able from this discussion, that there's at least one thing that you're able to take away and that you're able to implement into your daily life. There's one thing that you're able to work on, because it is important to take control of your time. It's important to take control of your productivity, and it's important to do your best work and have fun when you're working on your side hustle. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner. And today, as you know, I'm so giddy that we got to be talking about the word strategic so much, because it is a part of productivity. It is a part of making our relationship with productivity what we're able to get done so much better. Thank you for spending this time with me. You are watching me on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. Please check out our website also. But when you're on our YouTube channel, remember to like, subscribe, and even be notified of new episodes. I am here every Thursday at 2 o'clock Pacific time. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you again for your time, and have fun making this a good and positive, productive week for you. And now we are going to have a word from our sponsors.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions, master the art of listening with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio, and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacalyn.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.